All right, let's get into it. Today, we're exploring something pretty incredible that sits right at the intersection of hard neuroscience and, ancient philosophy. We're talking about the brain's very own override switch for suffering and how purpose, well, it just might be the key to flipping it. So let's just start with a really big question. What if, right now, your brain had a built-in way to just turn down all those persistent, unwanted signals? Things like chronic pain or anxiety. What if there was a switch that could quiet all that noise? To really get the solution, first we've got to understand the problem. And the problem is a signal in the brain that gets stuck in the on position. It's like an engine that just refuses to shut off. Now, we all get short-term pain, right? You touch a hot pan, you pull your hand back. Simple. It's a crucial warning system. But chronic pain? That is a whole different animal. It's a signal that gets stuck on long after the original reason for it is gone. It's not a warning anymore. It's become a system that's just hyperactive. Scientists have a name for this. It's called tonic activity. It's basically a state where these very specific pain-processing neurons just keep firing and firing, creating this constant, steady hum of noise in the brain. And this could be the very reason why so many people experience pain that doesn't seem to have a clear physical cause. Neuroscientist J. Nicholas Bately came up with the perfect analogy for this. He said this tonic activity is like an engine running even after you've parked the car. The noise is still there, it's still draining your resources, even when you're supposed to be at rest. Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the fix? Well, it turns out researchers stumbled upon a huge clue by looking at one of our most basic instincts. They found a built-in switch that's designed for survival. The big breakthrough came from this really simple kind of counterintuitive observation. Researchers noticed that when you're really, truly hungry, that chronic pain signal seems to just fade into the background. That powerful, urgent need to find food can actually override the persistent pain. And get this, it's not just about hunger. The brain does the exact same thing for other high-priority survival needs. So things like intense fear or being extremely thirsty, those can also push chronic pain to the side. It really seems like the brain has this built-in hierarchy of what's important right now. So how does this actually work on a chemical level? Well, it's this really elegant three-step process. First, the brain detects an urgent need, like hunger. Second, specific neurons release a little molecule called neuropeptide Y, or NPY for short. And third, that NPY basically acts like a key in a lock, and it dampens the activity of those overactive pain neurons. The brain can literally tell itself to be quiet when something more important is going on. Now, this idea of an internal switch for suffering, it isn't just some modern scientific discovery. It actually echoes some really ancient wisdom, which suggests that we can learn to cultivate this same ability through intentional action. And this brings us to this amazing Buddhist principle called sukha. Now, this isn't about some fleeting pleasure. It's a really deep sense of flourishing that comes from skillful action. Things like mastering a craft or cultivating your own mental balance. It's a kind of happiness you actually earn through persistence and becoming competent at something. The Buddha himself described this state perfectly. He taught that when you persist in mastering a skill, doesn't matter if it's woodworking or meditating or writing code, a non-fleshly rapture arises. It's that deep, soothing satisfaction you get from competence, from doing something really well, just for the sake of it. And what's the ultimate goal of cultivating all this skillfulness? Well, it's to find an answer to the problem of suffering. It's a really proactive behavioral way to quiet that exact same internal noise that we were just talking about with the neuroscience. So, how do we connect these two worlds? On one hand, we've got a biological switch that's triggered by survival instincts, and on the other, we've got a philosophical path that's paved with skillful action. Let's explore that bridge between the brain and our behavior. Okay, so this is where we have to be really, really clear. What we're exploring here is a powerful conceptual parallel. Science has not yet proven that mastering a skill like playing the piano activates the exact same NPY circuit that hunger does. But the parallels, they're just too fascinating to ignore. I mean, just look at this comparison. On one side, you have a biological drive, like hunger. It comes from instinct, and its job is immediate survival. On the other side, you've got a cultivated drive, like the pursuit of a skill. That comes from our own intention, and its function is to find peace, or sukha. Both of them seem to accomplish a similar thing. They shift our focus away from a persistent, draining state of distress and onto a purposeful, high-priority goal.
And this, right here, is the most exciting part of the neuroscience research. The scientists found that this override circuit isn't set in stone. It's flexible. It can actually be dialed up or down. And that suggests that we might be able to influence it ourselves. So how could we do that? Well, the researchers themselves point towards behavioral interventions, things like meditation, which is a core practice of skillful mental action, or cognitive behavioral therapy, exercise, and other lifestyle changes. They could all potentially tap into this very circuit and teach our brain to dial down the pain.
So here's the big takeaway. The future of managing chronic suffering might not just be about finding the right pill to block a signal. It might also be about finding the right behaviors, cultivating the right skills, to actively train our brains. We could actually strengthen this override circuit and teach it what's truly important to focus on. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If a raw biological drive like hunger is powerful enough to flip a switch in our brain, just imagine what a cultivated, purposeful drive could do. If your focus can become a force as strong as hunger, the real question is, what are you choosing to focus on?